Joining me now to discuss the 28-point peace plan to end the Russia-Ukraine war is Kervin Aucoin, former lead intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance coordinator for the U.S. Army. Kervin has direct experience in U.S.-Russia relations. During the first Trump administration, he participated in an overt anti-Russian campaign and now hosts the geopolitical intelligence podcast This Week Explained. Welcome back, Kervin. The Ukrainian delegation discussing the 28-point peace plan with European and American counterparts in Geneva today. What do you expect to come out of these talks?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Good to see you. I think this is an important situation that we're seeing here right now. And so, what are we looking at? I think we're looking at typical business practices from a businessman in President Donald Trump, who was giving an ultimatum of a certain date to come to a conclusion of this, knowing full well the conclusion can't be made. But he's getting people to negotiate now. We spent the last few months the states, spent the last few months talking to the Ukrainian side, talking to the Russian side. We couldn't get the two sides to come together and put a plan in place. So now we have a 28-point plan, much like the bullet point plan that we saw in Gaza, and then a forceful rhetoric of you're going to agree to this by Thursday, Thanksgiving. That's something we know President Trump likes to do. He likes these big holidays to present something, but knowing full well that with the sheer magnitude and implications of this conflict, that deal's not going to happen by Thursday. But it's going to get people negotiating, and you're going to have different plans being put out from different delegates, so that at some point the two presidents can come together. That Zelensky and Putin can come together and negotiate in good faith.
Now, critics of this plan have been outspoken about it. We're hearing that senators calling it a Russian wish list. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I want to just ask, how far apart do you think the two parties are on this plan, Russia and Ukraine at this point?
Yeah, I think they're still oceans apart. Look, I'm hearing some within the Russian mill bloggers that Russia will not even agree to this 28-point plan. So I kind of laugh at the fact that people think this is just based off of a Russian wish list. I don't think Russia is wishing to give away $100 billion that they feel was taken from this through various sanctions, and give it to Ukraine for rebuilding. I don't think that was part of Russia's plan. I think what we're seeing here is something that looks more pro-Russia than other deals that Western Europe would have liked to have made. But there's a reason for that. It's to get Ukraine to come to the table. And from a business aspect, this is what happens in negotiations. You offer something you know is not going to be approved by either side if you're mediating, in the hopes that there are a few things that they can start to agree to, and then it does not look like complete capitulation one side to the other. And the big thing here is both leaders have to go back to their people and claim victory when all is said and done.
Now, Kervin, you're saying that what's significant about this is that it's getting people to talk when there wasn't the kind of urgency perhaps Trump would have liked to have seen prior. So do you think that these talks could actually go somewhere, or do you think that this could sort of just peter out and then we'll be waiting a few months and then there'll be another moment like this?
I mean, that's the $100 billion question, and recent history tells us that it's the former, right? So, um, I don't know. I honestly don't know what's going to come of this. I don't know what
Sure.
Putin is going to say. I don't know what Zelensky is going to say. I know right now that it is getting delegations to talk to each other, but you have two presidents who honestly do not like each other and have said publicly, whether on podcasts or within their own state media, that they will not sit down with the other person. The other person is a villain. And until they bridge that gap of mistrust, I don't know that we get sincere talks from the two leaders who have to agree to this.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see that if that actually happens. But we've seen a lot of surprising things happen in the Trump administration so far, so who knows? Now, U.S. senators, coming back to the senators, they're critical of this plan, some of them, and they said Marco Rubio called it a Russian wish list, after which Rubio said it was authored by the US. What can you tell us about the origins of this proposal?
Yeah, I think it's something that I always say on the podcast is that two things can be true at the same time. It is a wish list given to the United States that they then took and put a 28-point plan together. Look, this is what's going to have to happen. You will take a wish list from the Russian Federation. You will take a wish list from Ukraine, and you will sort of smash them together in what the mediators think the two sides can agree to. You'll put that on a plan, present it to both sides, and have them debate over what they can accept. They're going to have to accept, look, Ukraine's going to have to accept that their borders have moved. This is not something that we like in modern day society, but it is just a fact. When a war happens and a nation invades another nation and breaches a certain border, at some point that border sticks. Now, I think also Ukraine doesn't like the demilitarized zone because they actually hold that area. So there's going to have to be some talk about that as well. But I think the key point here is going to be you cannot have a redo of the Budapest Agreement from 1994, I believe, where Ukraine was asked they were the third largest nuclear nation, and they were asked to remove all of their nuclear weapons in the promise that they will not be invaded by an adversary. We saw that did not happen. They were not given a security guarantee. They were given basically a promissory note saying, if you are invaded by an adversary, we will come to your assistance in the form of weapons or money or anything, but no NATO 5 style agreements. That's the agreement that Ukraine needs right now. It's the one I'm going to keep talking about everywhere that I talk. And it's the one I think Zelensky needs to push for.
And we're seeing something like that in these 28 points. Do you think what's represented in this plan is enough to be a significant, meaningful security agreement, or could we end up like we did with after the agreement in '94?
I think the one that's in the plan right now is a guarantee that NATO will react militarily, and I think that what I don't think are vague promises. Not having read, the entirety and all the footnotes within this plan, I won't speak to that. But if there are no tangible, valid, or validated security agreements, NATO 5 style, if that is not in writing, then I think Ukraine should and will walk away from this. So that's something that they're going to need to be pushing on. That's what I hope they're talking about in Geneva right now. And I hope that that's the plan that they push through, understanding, okay, we know our borders have shifted, but we want this security guarantee because we all know what Putin wants. He wants the entirety of Ukraine, and NATO, and so Western Europe, NATO, the United States, and Ukraine have to be forceful and say that cannot happen.
Now, if Europe and the Ukrainians don't agree to this plan, then what we're looking at is the United States withdrawing military support, military weapons support, and intelligence sharing with Ukraine. Could, say they reject that plan, could Europe back Ukraine to push Russia out of Ukraine and, reclaim that territory from Russia?
Yeah, look, I don't think that Ukraine has a chance right now where it stands to push Russia back as it currently stands. But with the backing of Western Europe, I think Western Europe is going to need to be more forceful in how they're helping Ukraine. Unfortunately, the only way to do this is to put boots on the ground. That's going to involve NATO. That could definitely feed into what Putin actually wants, so that he can start a war with NATO under the auspice that they started with Russia first. But what I think here is if Ukraine says that they're not even going to negotiate by Thursday, and the United States pulls out of their efforts for intelligence sharing, which I would say is even more important than the munitions and the military support that Ukraine is getting right now. I think Europe is going to have to fit the bill. They're going to have to spend extra of what the United States won't spend. And I think that's going to be all part of trying to get everyone to the negotiating table to get something tangible in place here. Ukraine's got to play it very safe. They have got to understand that this could be something where Russia tries to tie them as the one who doesn't want peace, who doesn't want to negotiate. So they have to come out publicly and forcefully say, we are trying to negotiate. What we are seeing here is a Russian Federation that does not want peace.
All right, Kervin Aucoin, former lead Army intelligence coordinator, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me. Stay safe out there.
You do the same.